It's time for the podcast. Yeah, the podcast is starting.
What's a podcast?
It's all gonna be alright in the end. It's gonna be alright. And if you've got some worries, my dear little friends, please rest your busy minds, because it's finally time for stories from now and then.
Welcome back to the old library, everybody. This is Stories from Now and Then. And my name is Captain Blunderface. I'm sitting on a well-worn leather armchair, off in a quiet corner among the bookshelves, and all I can hear is the occasional librarian shuffling around some books off in the distance. Peace and quiet. Perfect for story time. Now you might be wondering, where is Deprecatus? And well, my furry feline friend is out shoe shopping. Once he heard about today's story, he was insistent on picking up some boots for himself. I'm sure he just meant one pair. That way he can just wear them on his hind paws. But wait, maybe he'll get 2 pairs of boots. That way he can wear them on all 4 paws? But would that look weird? Wait a second here. Would a cat rather wear 2 pairs or 1 pair of boots? Either way. Before we saunter into today's story read by Nicola, we have a shout out for Leo in Mississauga, Ontario. Leo is a lover of Legos and loves to build rocket ships and boats. Leo, this story is for you. Oh, and it looks like we just got a message from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by GuestGetter. They help restaurants bring in guests and keep them coming back, which is great because I personally forget where I like to eat unless someone reminds me. GuestGetter helps restaurants do that, but on purpose. Check them out at guestgetter.co. And with that, it is now story time with Nicola. And maybe Deprecatus will make it back in time for part of the story, although it's nice to not be interrupted for a change. Nicola will pass it off. Oh, you're back. How is shoe shopping? Yes, it's just about to start. Let's just take a look at what you got while Nicola takes it away from here.
This is a story about a clever cat and a king and an earl. Maybe you haven't heard of an earl before. An earl is like a duke or a lord, an important person, a nobleman. But I want you to listen closely, because this earl might be hiding a secret. See if you can see what it is. The Earl of Cattenborough. Once upon a time, there was a miller who had 3 sons, Charles, Sam, and Jack. And when the miller and his wife died, all they left was the mill, the donkey, and the cat. Now Charles, as the eldest, took the mill, and the second son, Sam, took the donkey and went off with it. And the youngest, Jack, was left with only the cat. How could a cat be a help to Jack? Well, she knew some clever tricks. She used to take a bag with a string around the top and place it with some cheese in the bushes, and when a rabbit or a partridge would come and try to get the piece of cheese, snap! Cat would draw the string closed, and there was the rabbit or partridge for Master Jack to eat. One day, 2 rabbits happened to rush into the bag at the same time. So the cat, after giving one to Jack, took the other and went with it to the king's palace. And when she arrived at the palace gates, she cried out, "Meow!" The guard at the gate came to see what was the matter. Cat gave him the rabbit with a bow and said, "Give this to the king with the compliments of the Earl of Cattenborough." The king liked to eat rabbit very much and was happy to get such a nice present. Shortly after this, the cat found a gold coin on the side of the road. And she went up to the palace again and asked the guard if he would lend her a corn measure. The guard asked, who wanted it? And Cat said, "My master, the Earl of Cattenborough." So the guard gave her the corn measure, and a little while later she brought it back and returned it. But she had left the gold coin which she had found fixed in a little crack in the corn measure. Now word got back to the king that the Earl of Cattenborough must have so much gold that he needed to use a corn measure to measure all of it. When the king heard this, he told the guard that if that cat returned, he was to pass on a message asking the Earl to come and visit the palace. Sometime later, the cat caught 2 partridges and took one of them to the palace. And when she called out, "Meow," and presented it to the guard in the name of the Earl of Cattenborough, the guard told her that the king wished to see the Earl at his palace. So Cat went back to Jack and said to him, "The king desires to see the Earl of Cattenborough at his palace." "What does that have to do with me?" said Jack. "Well, you can be the Earl of Cattenborough if you like. I'll help you." "But I have no nice clothes, and they'll soon find out how poor I am when I talk to them." "As for that," said the cat, "I'll get you proper clothes if you do what I tell you, and when you come to the palace, I will see to it that you do not make any mistakes." So the next day she told Jack to take off his clothes and hide them under a big stone and dip himself into the river. And while he was doing this, she went up to the palace gate and said, "Meow, meow, meow." And when the guard came to the gate, she said, "My master, the Earl of Cattenborough, has been robbed of all he possessed, even of his clothes, and he is hiding in the bushes by the side of the river. What is to be done? What is to be done?" The guard went and told the king, and the king gave orders that a suitable suit of clothes, worthy of an earl, should be sent to Master Jack, who quickly put them on and went to the king's palace, accompanied by the cat. When they got there, they were introduced into the chamber of the king, who thanked Jack for his kind presents. The cat then stepped forward and said, "My master, the Earl of Cattenborough, desires to state to your majesty that there is no need for any thanks for such trifles." The king thought, "Oh, how grand! Jack must be very important to not even speak directly to him." And so the king summoned his Lord Chamberlain, and from that time on only spoke through him. Thus, when they sat down to dinner with the Queen and the Princess, the king would say to his Chamberlain, "Will the Earl of Cattenborough take a potato?" Whereupon the cat would bow and say, "The Earl of Cattenborough thanks his majesty and would be glad to partake of a potato." The king was so struck by Jack's riches and grandeur, and the princess was so pleased with his good looks and fine clothing, that it was decided that he should marry the princess. But the king thought he would make a final test to see if this earl really was as rich and noble as he seemed. So he told his servants to put a rickety old camp bed in the room in which Jack was to sleep, knowing that no real nobleman would put up with such a thing. When Cat saw this bed, she immediately guessed what was up. And when Jack began to put his pyjamas on to get into bed, she made him stop and called the attendants to say that he could not sleep in such a bed. So they took him into another bedroom, where there was a beautiful four-poster bed and everything worthy of a noble to sleep upon. Then the king was sure that Jack was a real nobleman, and he soon was married to the princess. After the wedding feast was over, the king told Jack that he and the queen and the princess would come with him to his castle of Cattenborough. And Jack did not know what to do. But the cat told him it would be all right if he only didn't speak much while on the journey. and that was fine by Jack. So they all set out in a carriage with 4 horses and with the king's royal guards riding around it. But Cat ran ahead in front of the carriage, and when she came to a field where men were mowing down the hay, she pointed to the royal guards riding along and said, "Men, if you do not say that this field belongs to the Earl of Cattenborough, those soldiers will cut you to pieces with their swords." So, when the carriage came along, the king called one of the men to the side of it and said, "This field, to whom does it belong?" And the man said, "It belongs to the Earl of Cattenborough." And the king turned to his son-in-law and said, "I did not know that you owned land so close to us." And Jack said, "I had forgotten it myself." Then the king thought to himself, "He must be enormously wealthy if he cannot remember how much land he owns." A little farther on, there was another great field in which men were raking hay, and the cat spoke to them as she did with the men before. So when the carriage came up, they also declared that this field belonged to the Earl of Cattenborough. And so it went on through the whole drive. Then the king said, "Let us now go to your castle." Then Jack looked at Cat, and she said, "If your majesty will wait but an hour, I will go on before and order the castle to be made ready for you." With that she dashed away and went to the castle of a great ogre and asked to see him. When she was brought to him, she said, "I have come to give you warning. The king with all his army is coming to the castle and plans to batter its walls down and fight you."
"What shall I do? What shall I do?"
said the ogre.
"Is there no place where you can hide yourself?"
"I'm too big to hide,"
said the ogre.
"but I do have a magic potion, and when I take that, I can make myself as small as I like."
"Well, why not take it now?"
said the cat. And with that he took the potion and shrank down until his body was no bigger than a mouse. And immediately the cat jumped on him and ate him all up, and then went down into the great yard of the castle and told the guards there that it now belonged to her master, the Earl of Cattenborough. Then she ordered them to open the gates and let in the king's carriage, which came along just at that moment. The king was delighted to see what a fine castle his son-in-law possessed, and left his daughter, the princess, with him at the castle, while he drove back to his own palace. And Jack and the princess lived happily in the castle. And when the king died, Jack became king himself, and that was finally the end of the Earl of Cattenborough. Wasn't she a clever cat? She made sure that her life would be spent living very comfortably, and she used all of her tricks to make sure that Jack had a good life too, pretending to be an earl, marrying the princess, having a castle, and then becoming king. But really, Jack didn't do anything. It was all thanks to his clever cat.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I think that was Deprecatus' favorite story that we've heard so far. I can tell he's feeling inspired. Remember, if you'd like a shout out as well, you could send us a DM on Instagram at Stories From Now and Then. We'd love to hear what you think. Stories From Now and Then is narrated by Nicola Ward, music by Captain Blunderface, and Captain Blunderface played by Evan Wiebe. You're all a bunch of cool cats for listening to our show. And there's lots more we have planned for the future. So, we'll see you next time on
Stories From Now and Then.